for the past 3 days. So we got Monday, man. We're gonna go with the news too. So Monday, this is where we got a standoff between the U.S. and the Strait of Hormuz, man. I believe on Monday there was a talk about how, you know, going into last week we had good talks, and Trump was saying how he was in communications with Iran, and then going into this week, they say we have no communications. So same thing as every other week. It is up, down, a whole bunch of hoorah. So that's what happened. You got anything to say about that? Anything that you saw out of the ordinary about that?
Not necessarily out of the ordinary, but you already know that sideways movement coming before we have that good move that come in the weekend, man. That's Trump's prime time blueprint, man. He released the good talk on a Friday, or, you know what I'm saying, we got a long weekend. We go dumb. That didn't really reflect too much on the market necessarily, like how it used to, but
yeah, man, you know, stuff like this is just a regular cause the market to go up and down, man. On Friday, you can even see that we had a good hard rejection the second time from 779 almost, right around that 780 all-time high. So that was Monday, causing us to move to the downside. Something that was big about Monday, as well as the fact that we had the Treasury yield and the 30-year Treasury advanced to the highest level since 2027. So we'll be talking about that and breaking down what that means today. But, you know, the biggest thing that was going on within the stock market the last 3 days, or that is going on, is the 30-year Treasury bond hit a fresh 19-year high. You got Japan's 10-year yield hit its highest in 3 decades. Germany's 30-year highest since 2011. France's 30-year highest since 2008. A global term premium story, not a U.S. isolated one, right? So you can see that the turmoil is not just hitting us here in our economy, right? You know, all around the world, there's some changes being around with everything. You know, Flash, what you got to say about it?
Just the simple fact that it's just time for a shift, for real. It's time for a new beginnings, new leadership. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the older people that have been having their way are dying. You know what I'm saying? It's about to be that time. Yeah. Ultimately, it's about to be time to retire. You know what I'm saying? And so, it's just those early stages of that. Let's be a little bit corny and call it the New World Order. Let's call it that. You feel me?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too.
Yeah,
and that's what they call it.
That's what they call it.
Changing world order, new world order. You know, however you want to say it, but you know, our worlds are changing. You know, even when we watched the animated video of last week in Full Circle Wealth, that's why you guys got to join the community. But shout out to Ray Dalio. He was breaking down the change in countries and how it shifts and how it's a pattern. You have the rise, you have the top and the bottom, and you got the U.S. and just all these different countries, just all shifting. You know, U.S., we always know it to be at the top, but now they're making their way. They're not going to the absolute bottom, but things are things ain't falling in place the way it used to be. Yeah. You have China, things are falling more in line, especially with this tech, especially with just the tech in general. You know, that's where we're moving to, and China's got our lead on that. And next is India. Yeah. You know, India is if it's not China, it's the Indians that are working up in these tech companies, getting the sauce and those engineer jobs. While, you know, our Americans is we still in the blueprint collar jobs. We ain't using our brain enough. You know, blue collar jobs. Sorry.
Yep. No, you're right.
Yeah.
You know, like, our education system is not the best in any capacity. We're pretty low. You know what I'm saying? And so compared to, I had read something the other day. I think it's 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I had read something that if China wanted to, because their tech and the way that they're set up, they could do a lot of hacking and really fuck up a lot of grids like ours. I mean, they could do us janky. They like getting into Bitcoin and quantum computing. They've been had that. You know what I'm saying? With that being said, what I had read was that they could really take over and really be the number one if they wanted to.
You know, that's what they say allegedly. You know, them remember that crash we had within Microsoft and on the internet last year, I believe. So there was a moment where
Amazon.
I believe was it Amazon?
It was the cloud services.
I think there was Microsoft too. I think Microsoft has something to do with Broadcom too, because Microsoft is partnered. So Microsoft, I think it was all their servers were down too. But just those two examples as well, the cloud server with Amazon being down and then Microsoft going through it with Broadcom. Or I think it was literally what you said. The fact that Amazon they control the whole back end of the cloud, the AWS, it caused everything to go.
Yep.
So, that's a prime example right there. That's what they say allegedly it was caused by the Chinese.
Yeah.
We ain't saying y'all did it, but hey, it was caused from China, and that's just a good example right there of the bottlenecks that we have.
Yeah. Even with the AI, remember that DeepSeek came out? That's free open source. While us Americans are paying $20 for the.
Yeah, man.
You feel me? Like,
so it's only things can only last so long, man.
New World Order.
Yeah.
So,
and back to the bonds, man. So for the people who don't know what a bond is, you can think of a bond as a government, like a long-term loan, right? A loan to the government, right? You lend money to a government and they promise to pay you back in 10 or 30 years, giving you a fixed interest payment, which is that yield, right? Every year. So right now, long-term interest rates are hitting historic highs in the U.S., Japan, Germany, and France, all at the same time. This is a massive global event because investors around the world are suddenly demanding a much bigger bonus, right? And they call this a premium, a term premium to lock up their money for a long time. So if I'm going to give you my money for 30 years, I want a higher percentage back.
Yeah.
And the countries are already dealing with so much money. You guys want this higher percentage, but we still trying to build something, and we got debt on our hands.
Yeah.
So it's causing it was causing things shaking up around the world. You got anything to say about that before we move forward?
Nah, you covered it. You covered it well.
Yeah, so just to put it in simple terms for you guys, man, right now, like I said, the people want more money from the governments, and the governments are already in debt. And we have an actual math breakdown for an example. So with the U.S. national debt crossing $40 trillion, a mere 1% increase in the global interest rates adds roughly $400 billion per year to the government's budget. And it's purely in interest payments. So without them buying a single road or buying a single bridge or building a single school, all them stuff that they use the government money for, without them doing that, they already got to pay all this money back on the interest. And yeah, today, that was Monday, Tuesday, the big talk about it. And then today, we get that the government fixed that by buying back all their debt. So it sounds backwards, but the government used the buyback as an emergency tool to calm down the market. And here is how it works, right? They created an artificial buyer. Investors were rushed to sell off their 30-year bonds, which was causing bond prices to crash and interest rate yields to skyrocket. And they step in as a giant guaranteed buyer. The government stopped the panic. So they trade the old debt for the new debt. They force the rates back down in the bond world. When a massive buyer starts purchasing bonds, it pushes the bond prices up. When the bond prices go up, interest rate automatically go down, right? This intervention successfully pulled the 30-year yield back from a scary peak of 5.34% toward 5.19. So then we have the catch. It's a temporary band-aid, but I'm a little tired, brother. You mind reading?
You good. Where are we?
Right
The
here.
catch is a temporary band-aid. While the buyback successfully stopped the total market meltdown, it does not solve the core problem. The total debt didn't shrink. The government is still over 40 trillion in debt, and they just shifted the debt from long-term IOUs to short-term IOUs. It costs a lot of money as well. Buying back bonds during a market crisis is expensive. The government is essentially paying a premium to keep the system stable. The bond vigilantes are still watching. Investors know this is an artificial fix. If the government keeps overspending, investors will eventually start demanding higher rates. And again, the moment the buyback program pauses. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So that was what went down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which is what caused this right here. We bounced off this prime support level. This is why these levels matter.
Yep.
And then we came right back up, and now we're here, right? So market falls for some reason, it moves up for some reason. You guys could see, when we talked about liquidity grabs on previous Wednesday, this is a good example of, coming down to short it for a little bit, act like it's going one way, but then come right back up, right? Which is why it's important for you to just buy the dip and take advantage, man. And if you are going to trade near these levels, man. Prime example, man. If you would have got here, you saw the good bounce. There you go, man. But talking about everything when it comes down to these bond yields and these buybacks and how this was the biggest thing the last couple of days. This is just another example as to why you should get invested into the stock market. Why we say this is such a strong mechanism and a forward-moving mechanism within our country. I mean, you guys see that they're not gonna let this fall, right? You know, we might go through some turmoil, but the U.S., you know, is still on top in a lot of ways. And when it comes down to the stock market, I mean, this might be the best way they're on top. The U.S. stock market, the U.S. companies, being able to print the money in here, which is why we need to get involved with printing this money, man, because they do it like clockwork. They do it like clockwork, man. So that was the biggest things that was going on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, man. We also had the semiconductor ETFs fall during this whole time. We got SMH ETF, right? Daily time frame. If we go back, good pullback after running up